Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Questioning a better way, one gracefully disruptive conversation at a time.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. I'm so excited to be here with you today. We are live in the 99ers bar of Colfax. We're super excited to be here, so thank you to them for having us. And I'm excited to welcome a longtime friend / family member, nutrition coach, athletic coach, and all-around varsity advocate for everyone, but especially for her people, the Jackie Miller. Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome to be here. Before I do, I'm going to give a little bit of love to our sponsors, Neurofeedback, Lux Neuro, offering neurofeedback and counseling where your heart and mind align. For more information about what neurofeedback can do for you, listen to the neurofeedback stories of transformation in the middle of this podcast. Neurofeedback effectively treats everything from insomnia, anxiety, depression, and trauma, ADHD, and much more. Optimize your brain and check them out at luxneuro.com. Transitioning in back to my esteemed guest, the Jackie Miller. We go way, way back, and we're just trying to think of when we first became friends, and it's been at least 5 or 6 years, but within the CrossFit community for at least probably 10 years.
Yeah, I started CrossFit, I think 8 years ago, and I've only ever been at your dad's gym, so
really?
at Ladium.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out Ladium CrossFit.
Yeah, Ladium CrossFit.
That's wild. Okay, well, as you know, on Turmeric and Tequila, we're going to get into many things. Advocacy is the theme of our 3 shows running, and Jackie is the human's advocate. I've learned so much about advocacy, but just, I want to say being a good person, as cliche as that sounds. If you've listened to Turmeric and Tequila, I've probably referenced something I've learned from this human at least once or twice, and you wouldn't know it because I never say your name, but she's even told me, she's like, were you talking about me? And I'm like, yes, I have. So if you don't know Jackie, you do actually know her. Now you're going to get hear the full story of the human I'm often referencing.
Thank you.
Yes, you know it's true because I know you actually listen, which I
That's
appreciate.
true. Big fan.
So before we jump in,
long-time listener, first-time caller.
That's actually next on the list is to get live callers, for better or for worse. So you know the drill. Tell us about like young Jackie. Some of this I don't even know as we talked about this show. So give us the young 411.
I grew up in the Northeast, so born in New York, raised in Connecticut for the most part. My parents got divorced when I was really young, so my mom was a single mom, and so my sister, I'm the oldest of 2, kind of had to, in some ways, chart our own path as far as like I think that is sometimes where I've got like the big sis vibes is because I like I've always been the big sister, and I had to like kind of take on I don't know,
Natural leader.
Yeah, yes. I never thought about it coming from that angle, but sure.
Totally.
But yeah, I was like, I was definitely like a book kid. I never played sports. I think I played 1 season of softball, and it was terrible, and I hated it. No, like I just didn't. And it's not because I didn't like a team. It just wasn't my vibe, I guess. So I found music, and I started playing in concert bands in school when I was 10, and that is what carried me through all through high school. And so even though I never played sports traditionally, we were competitive marching band in high school. And
it's very competitive and a lot of work.
And yeah, so we always used to joke that we practiced twice as hard as the football team because we were not only practicing music, but we were practicing marching. So yeah, so that kind of, that was where I found my people and that kind of saved me because I wasn't really a great student, not because I didn't like learning. It's just I had a hard time figuring out my way of learning. And so yeah, that was pretty much it. So left Connecticut when I was 18, I never graduated college. I only did a couple years of college.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I just, again, not really a great student. Love to learn, not a great student.
Yeah.
So.
Well, like I think traditionally, but you're someone that seeks out knowledge, seeks a way. I think you're phenomenal at, if you don't know something, you know how to find the answer. And to a lot of people, I think that sounds simple, but it's not, because you can just Google something for the quick answer, but that's not usually the right answer. You have to do some digging. You got to listen to a bunch of podcasts, do a bunch of research, listen to a bunch of doctors talk. Like, you know how to dig in and advocate for yourself and or anyone that needs it.
Yeah, I've always prided myself, is that the way I said that? Prided myself on being a very resourceful person. And that's something I learned actually at a drum major academy when I was 17 years old about resourcefulness is going to get you a long way. And so, yeah, I just started that. I carried that nugget of wisdom, I guess. And so to your point, yeah, I try and find ways of accessing information that is well-rounded and go deep if I want to learn something, because I want to know all about it. So,
and I think that's huge, because you're a mother, you have a young human watching you, but you're also a coach and a leader. So people are always watching and drinking your behaviors outside of like official commands. They're watching like how you walk through this world. And that's what I think is so powerful. And what I love, and you're going to cringe at this, is probably one of the top influencers in my life is Jackie, because she'll stand up. She'll say like, it's not a guys or girls bar. It's a 35-pound bar versus just like natural in life, in flow things that kind of just keep the guardrails there. And it's a continuous point of influence and inspiration versus like, buy this product, it's on blast. That's more my role. And they use subtleties that are like equally as powerful that make a really big difference.
Oh, thanks. I try and walk the walk if I'm going to talk the talk.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of my paths have been like alternative paths just because of whatever, not necessarily adversity, and to some degree, yes, but trying to be a good leader, but also someone that I would want to, like someone I want to be proud of and that I would want to follow, I guess, for lack of better terms.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's massive. And you're very intentional with, I think, your steps, but you've always been involved with different communities, whether it's forging youth resilience or advocating through nutrition for LGBTQ plus, or transitioning and applying nutrition and counseling through those avenues. So I think you've been very intentional at getting in different diverse communities and being a leader in those communities.
Yeah, and thanks. I mean, I think naturally fell into those communities. I mean, well, I am, I'm queer and I am larger bodied and I am neurodiverse. So a lot of that naturally is, I attract those clients and those people naturally, but also I have had to advocate for myself in those avenues. And so trying to find a way to lend the voice that I would have needed at some point to other people who haven't quite found that yet. So,
and that's big, because that's not something you have to do. That's something you choose to do. And all of us are better for that. But that's still a conscious choice on your end. And I love for people to hear that, because you don't always have to take on that role, especially if you've had to climb a mountain and advocate for yourself. Like, you can at some point just chill and live your life, but you really do go out of your way to hold space and do extra for those that you can help, contribute to their journey.
yeah. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Trying.
Yeah, sure. We're giving her a gold star today.
Yeah.
I don't really go order, and I don't usually read bios, but I want to read Jackie's, because it's really well written. So good job.
ChatGPT.
Yeah. But also because you've checked so many boxes, I think it's important for people to hear how in depth your experience and knowledge is, and how you are like in so many coaching positions, and you don't necessarily title yourself as an influencer. So like, the irony of that just always makes my turmeric and tequila heart smile. So we're going to go. Jackie Miller. Never having participated in athletics beyond high school marching band, Jackie discovered a passion for heavy lifting, CrossFit, and the transformative power of nutrition, realizing she had more to offer than her sales desk job. She left her position to pursue a career as a nutrition and fitness coach after losing her full-time job at a gym due to the pandemic in 2020. Where she was both the nutrition coach and teens program manager. Jackie launched her online coaching program business, JMR Wellness. Her approach emphasizes body inclusivity and holistic health, focusing on what can be added to clients' lives to support their overall well-being rather than solely on what they need to lose. She creates a safe space for athletes' clients, with many coming from neurodivergent, queer, and or larger-bodied communities. Jackie has been a strong advocate for inclusion in the fitness world, founding and running Denver's first gender-neutral CrossFit competition, and previously leading the LGBTQ plus IA fitness community group. She also serves as the secretary on the board of the directors for FYR Denver, formerly Steve's Club, a nonprofit that provides fitness, nutrition, and mentorship to underserved youth. Advocacy has always been a central part to Jackie's work and personal life. Recently, she has shifted her focuses from coaching business to parenting, dedicating much of her time to supporting her 11-year-old son as he navigates life as a neurodivergent child. Boom, mic drop. So the reason I read that is because I know, first of all, Jackie's a very humble human being, and I'll segue to other things. I really think it's important for people to hear the whole background and the journey you've taken, and you're just getting started, of all these different communities, but also again, really intentional steps to be leaders in the different communities, which I think is massive. And I hope really inspiring for people listening or watching. If it relates to you at all, you can lean in and learn. Like, you don't have to be like a professional, any one of these things. You can kind of learn and go as you get in. I think that's what we need people to do today.
Yeah, if you have a calling, answer. I mean, and if you see something in yourself, to follow it. And I mean, it was one of the biggest leaps of faith that I ever took, was being like, am I good enough to be a fitness coach? So my first way I started coaching was CrossFit, and I'd only been doing CrossFit for like 2 years. I wasn't an athlete, and so I'm like, am I good enough to do this? And the answer I gave myself was, people need to see people that aren't pro athletes doing the thing that they're trying to do every day. And so that's what I've tried to continue to do and model as a leader. All the words that you use that are so much better, because I know I'm not very good at talking about myself, but I'm trying to be that for people. Like, I call myself the everyman Jill coach, because like, there's being able to do a muscle up or a 200-pound clean doesn't matter if you can't connect to the people and the people aren't inspired by what you're doing. So.
And what's funny is I've gone to the games. I'll talk about myself. And we've done all the things in CrossFit. I always say I have the MRIs to prove it. And the funny thing is, I guess coaches come in, whatever their background is, however they look, because I've done athletics long enough. You never judge a book by its cover, because like, you'll either get run over or rocked, is like, you never know. And that's just JV and infantile if you don't. If you come in thinking you're going to know, that's when you get smoked. So that's never my thought process. I completely hear what you're saying. But what I love is when people say, oh, I've never done a sport prior to CrossFit. And all I'm thinking is like, oh my God, their body is like fresh. Like, no worn out knees, no shoulders. Like, this should be illegal, because like, I have, I'm 25 and I have 20 years of beating the crap out of myself. And now 20 years later, we're still doing CrossFit. So it's funny how like the different mindsets come in. Like, I'm not thinking that at all as a CrossFit Games, that like with all the ethos, I would never think that. But that's why it's so important to have those conversations and be a representative. Also, what is funny is usually your best athletes aren't your best coaches. So it's funny when my coaches that, are games athletes, and some probably like, oh my God, we're going to hear about their workout and like how they do things. Because you're good at athlete, that doesn't mean you're necessarily good at a coach. It does exist. But I love when, the people that had zero desire to go to the games, they just want to facilitate community and like teach everybody how to do squats properly, like very functional life skills versus muscle ups.
1,000%. Like, I don't care about like the 2% of people that are going to be competitive CrossFitters. What I care about is like, this is so cheesy and so corny, but like the 60-year-old man who wants to be able to pick up his grandkids when like, as they grow and as he ages, or, especially women, as that don't strength train, it's very hard to continue to maintain any sort of strength, or your bones get brittle. So being able to see how they can, like to your point, functionally continue to be strong in their lives. Like, this is what matters, is how can you get strong in the gym to live your life in the long term. And that's always been, long-term health has always been one of the things that I'm really trying to drive home for people. So.
Well, that's really what CrossFit is about. It's not really about the games. Almost in here, overtraining, there's nothing. Yeah. I'm here for it. Like, I'm here to compete and be the best, but you do sacrifice a lot, brain, body, everything. Like, it all comes into play when you're competing at that level. But the functionality in the community, and I love that you can not only show up as a physical coach teaching the movements, but you do have the nutrition, which plays into hormones, brain health, everything else. You can come and have this whole human approach. Hence, even going to the games, I never did my nutrition macros. I didn't like that you change your socks to be better at CrossFit. I came from quote unquote real sports. That being said, when I finally did, after I would be in my macros with Jackie, I think I lost at least 4% body fat in like a month.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
Mass,
yeah.
Tracking macros, stuff I would never do.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, thanks for trusting me. And I was like, you're the first person I trusted. I'm like, did you see me doing that back at the games? Like, that's no way, because I knew you, like, you walk the walk, like, and you care about your people. Like, you care about what's going on. As a person that's been coached by many coaches over the years, you can tell right away. Like you can tell which coaches are dialed in and believe their craft. It's a massive piece. Do you like the nutrition coaching or the physical fitness coaching better?
It's hard to decide. I love the camaraderie is different. So I love coaching a group class. The energy is different. But then when I'm coaching someone one-on-one, whether it's like from coaching them physically or coaching health or nutrition, there's a deeper conversation to be had there. And so a lot of the time when people come to me to talk about their food or their health, it's really almost about everything else, because what their habits are dictated by the rest of their life, right? Like people who aren't eating well, whatever that means for them, it's not because they are choosing that. There's a reason behind it. So, and that whether that means they're not drinking any water or because they need to eat 185 grams of protein, everyone's goals and reasons for behind what they're doing are different. So, to piggyback off of what you just asked, I do like when people at the gym are like, why can't I do this? Why? I'm like, well, what are you eating? Like,
or are you eating at all?
Yeah, are you eating at all? So, I mean, that was part of what was going on with you, is that you were massively under eating. And so a lot of people that ends to...
But I didn't think that. Like, I wasn't trying to be skinny or any... I was just busy and in who knows, La La Land.
Yeah, eating clean and... but
a chicken breast with tequila.
With a dusting of turmeric on top.
Yeah, literally. And some black cup that says bioavailable.
Yeah.
But yes. Yeah. I mean, that kind of literally was what it was. And then I started tracking. I was like, oh, shit, you're right. So I was actually listening for once. That was the only time. It's all done now. Just,
Okay. So the one time.
That was it.
That's fine.
Well, in the coaching, I also think something you're really good at is so much of it's like therapy. Like, how did you get good at the part that wasn't about the macros or the lifting? It was like, how do I connect to the human? And then you kind of have to be a therapist to connect and then advise. And each human you coach is a different coaching style.
Yeah, that's something. So caring about people, giving a shit, that part came easy. But being able to hear people and really hear what their stories were, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, part of it was letting go of like the ego of, gosh, I knew I was going to do that. Letting go of the ego that I knew this worked for me, and I know this works because this is what it says in a book. And so trying to kind of move past that, then I was able to really kind of tailor and hear what people were saying more. I don't know if that answers your question, but
I actually, absolutely, and I want to lean into that.
Therapy is out of scope. I am not a therapist.
Well, I mean, you're not.
I just need to say that.
Yeah, you're clear about that. Even in your consultations, even after being friends or family for so many years, you are very clear on that. And that still happens. It's not even that you're necessarily like giving them therapy, but you're holding that space.
Yeah, and that is, holding space for people. I think that is something that I've always kind of done. I mean, I think as a friend, I do that. And I think people always say that I know everything about them, but they don't know anything about me. It's because I just naturally want to hold space for people. So that translating into a skill to be able to do that with nutrition and health coaching and fitness coaching. I mean, it was a pretty natural step once I got kind of past the we need to do numbers kind of thing. Like letting go of that and being able to talk to people on the level where they're at, meeting them where they're at, then the knowledge comes easily after that and giving them what they need.
Yeah. Well, I think when you do authentically listen to people, they trust you. And building that rapport is really, really important.
Yeah, I know everyone's heard this quote, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And that's true. Like and that goes back to what you were saying about games athletes and the best athletes aren't always being the best coaches, because oftentimes they care about what they're doing.
Yeah, they kind of have to.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, it's like someone once told me, and I don't want to compare myself to Bill Belichick, but they were like, he's a terrible athlete, but he's an excellent end dresser. But like he was at his peak, he was like a really great coach, right? So even if he was cheating at times, but that's not, it was just an example someone gave me. But it makes sense, right? Like not an athlete, but won a ton of championships.
Yeah, I mean, but you are definitely a way better athlete at CrossFit than he is at football. Like,
Yeah, that's
let's
fair.
put that out there.
I'll take that.
I lift with you on the weekly, and like it better be, otherwise that's just something on my fitness as well. No, it's real, and I don't. It's fascinating to me because I don't know. This is cliche, but that great coaches can be made. I think they're already kind of there, and then you refine your skill as far as like what sport it is, whatever. But like that authentic space to hold for any kind of athlete, whatever you're coaching, I always think it's kind of within, and I feel like you got it or you don't. And it's just there. What do you like? What has coaching and like being able to connect with people provided for your life?
I don't know, like sense of purpose sounds really cheesy, but I was like, I mean, you read the bio, like I was literally working at a flooring company filling purchase orders for sales representatives, and like that was not, like I felt that didn't give me anything. And I'm the kind of person who needs to like, is impassioned by the things in her life. And so whether that's, talking about someone they care about, whether I'm talking about a product I like, or whether I'm, passionate about what I'm doing, I need to be like, purposeful. And so, I think, it gave me a sense of purpose, and to be able to see people change and their health get better, or them just to feel confident or be able to start advocating for themselves, that is, definitely given me, purpose, I guess.
I mean, that makes complete sense. And I don't think it's cheesy. We're kind of back in this era in 2024 of like mental health community. Like we've got so many humans unhappy. I think digging back to those initial steps. So like as a young person, what brought you joy and all these cliche things. But at this point, I think it's important for all people, especially our young people, to hear if you're in a space or you're doing a job where you feel like you're not contributing or it doesn't feel purposeful, that's major intel. And I think that's an initial point of mental health and like the crux where you start to get unhappy because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah. And I'm not talking about like conforming to go do things like, but you're not on path to your purpose. And we all have these little idiosyncrasies and gifts and like really random things that are intel on what we should be doing. And if the seed is planted or there's some sort of thought of like, I don't feel useful, I'm not on path, you got to make one small step in the right direction.
Yeah. I mean,
move out.
One step, right? Like that used to be that's what I tell everybody. Like, you don't need to know, right? Like, you just need to know that what's not working for you isn't working any longer, and take a step. And then you'll know the next step when the next step was brought to you. So I didn't know when I decided to quit that job that I was going to end up as like a career coach. I just knew that I couldn't do what I was doing anymore because I felt hollow doing it. And so I quit, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll start working the desk at the sports club and then take my L1 and then let's go from there and see what happens. And so
wild. And now it's your whole life. It's my whole life. I love it so much. And what's cool is like CrossFit is like one of the things where it really does align alongside nutrition and other lifestyles, like this whole human approach that leans in. So it tees you up, and it's kind of ironic / serendipitous that you've gone from advocating for yourself and your community, and then now your son with neurodivergence.
Divergence. Yeah.
We'll get
I
there.
think that's
Okay. But you already had the skills to like travel this uncharted path, blaze trail, and learn for yourself. And here you are now doing it again. And I'm guessing it's even more important than, yourself or your community. It's your human. It's your child. It's your baby cub. Figuring it out. You know how I feel about my dogs, literally. So I couldn't imagine if they were human beings, traveling or navigating a world that was telling you one thing and you believed another.
Yeah. Do you mean... Can you expand upon that? What you were saying?
Sure. Yeah, unless it's flying out.
No, that's okay.
From my 3 dogs, and it's more just like you're in all these zones. You're navigating. CrossFit's new, this is new, and now your kiddo in being neurodivergent, and you're trying to put him down a traditional path where there's friction and it's not aligning, and so you created your own path once again. But this was a story you were used to.
Yeah. Trying to forge my own way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I hear you. I hear what you're saying now. Yeah. And that's true. I mean, like that goes back to the resourcefulness, right?
Absolutely.
Like, if it's not working, you got to find a way to make a change and find what does work for you. And I think that is something that is very hard for people in general. Like it's hard to listen to yourself and find confidence in your own voice, and then to know kind of where to do that. And I'm not saying that I'm great at that, but I am good at just being okay with being uncomfortable for a little while as I try and figure out what the next step could be. And that's...
I think that's huge. And it's funny that we're like super strong in CrossFit, but I actually think, you talked about this in Gold Stars, we always laugh at, the points in life where you are really strong or you're figuring stuff out, it's the things you don't get recognized for. It's, showing up for your kiddo, like managing family, managing the in-betweens of business that no one knows. And yeah, you get gold medals for competitions or races, but like the real stuff is the in-between that nobody knows about. It's taking the shit out of you in the background. And then only you can show up and be like, oh man, I survived that. And like maybe you and your gym partner know because you bitched about it over bench press.
As we're walking over to pick up plates.
Yeah, literally. And they're not matching on the bar, by the way. Math is all off.
Yeah, that happens.
That's why we're strong. So tell me, and I did want to lean into this because we have neurodivergence is becoming such, it's becoming a larger conversation as it needs to be, but it's still evolving. When you knew that you want to take a step in a different direction and traveled on that, for parents listening, what were some of the first things you did to learn more about the community and just understand neurodivergence better in general?
That's it's been like a real big journey. So my son is 11. My son Rainer is 11. We kind of knew he's neurodivergent when he was 3, and so it's been this like very long road of finding, like, understanding what could be going on within his brain, and then trying to find what works, and then hitting a roadblock, and then taking a different path. And so I think your question was how did I start learning about this?
How'd you like, I mean, because no one really talks about it. So I'm wondering how you get in and understand.
Yeah. So, if I was going to do it now, for having not gone through the road, because really the conversations that are happening on social media weren't happening 8 years ago. And so, just lean into, podcasts and, finding voices that you think that resonate with you, and then follow it, and then consuming that media to be able to understand. And I mean, that's when so Rainer's autistic, and he was misdiagnosed when he was 5, and so we didn't know that he's autistic then. It was just like the conversation was just around ADHD and OCD, and so always knowing that something wasn't quite right, I just kind of forged ahead and just tried to find ways to support him because the information wasn't there, because we were told it wasn't there. And now we have a better understanding of what he needs, but I just having to, like, again, be resourceful and dig into the information is out there. It's just being able to find what you're looking for. And honestly, I think podcast culture is really great for that, because otherwise it makes it more accessible for people and to hear conversations instead of just like something that's super clinical. And so it's like, okay, well, the doctor said this when he's 5 years old, and that wasn't right, but I could still listen to these other voices and be like, all right, well, even if this isn't the diagnosis, this is how we still need to kind of help him. So
well, I think that's huge. The biggest piece of that, my takeaway, and I would love for people to hear, is that you can question authority. Like, you can question a system that's very traditional, potentially antiquated, or people maybe, and doctors that are authoritative voices that might not have all the intel because it's still up and coming. There's very little info on women's health, women's color, neurodivergent. I mean, there's so many things that we just haven't studied a lot. Brain health. I mean, I'm very passionate about that. So much of it has been podcasts or at Lux Neuro, or like me asking my own questions. I really want people to hear you can question authority. You can question this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is, I was just having this conversation with someone yesterday who, same thing, going through a similar experience that I went through. She was like, well, this is what the doctor said. And I was like, you are the expert on your child, and you are with them all the time, and you know what is and what isn't. So you can take a, multi-lettered acronym diagnosis and work with that as you need to, or you can, and you can also find what works for you outside of that, because eventually it doesn't matter if you have a diagnosis of an autism diagnosis or not. If you're finding that these things aren't working for you, then you need to find what does work for you. So, and that doctors, and then also big time in the schools. So
yeah, I liked one of the days you were at the gym, one of our many podcasts not recorded, was you're like, what would your kids' education look like if it didn't have to be through this school, or something? You're like, it blew my mind of like, you didn't have to travel this path, or what education is.
Yeah. So I forget what I heard. It was like, what if you let go of all the expectations that you have been told about what things should look like from education or anything, and just let go of that and could support your child with what exactly you thought they needed, because you, again, are the expert. I mean, not as much as they're an expert, but then what would that look like? And so hearing that, and thank you for hearing me say that, because that is that's been a big thing. It's like, especially in the last year, it's like, okay, well, public school isn't working. Like, he's traumatized going there every day. He's being bullied. The teachers don't believe that he's got behavior, like they don't believe his experience, and he's not being able to access learning, and it's sucking the joy out of learning for him. So what are we going to do? And so that's where we are today.
Oh, and those are really tough, like, hurdles to cross for our young people and for the parents that don't really know what to do. And again, there's the systems that, right or wrong, doesn't matter, it's just not working. And then there's minimal resources. But I just love the metaphor of you letting go what you're supposed to do. This is why we have graceful stuff. This is why we talk about, in all capacities, it really is a great takeaway piece, because there really is no supposed to. Like,
yeah,
society, I mean, we're conformed, or we do conform, and we're, taught these things by often well-intended humans before us, parents, teachers, leaders, whatever. But as time goes on, things can change. And like, it was all made up before us. Like, someone invented every piece of this and what the structure is.
I mean, it's like what you're supposed to do. I mean, look, nutrition, right? Like,
yeah,
carbs were bad 10 years ago, and now everyone's like, you need to eat good complex carbs. It's the same thing. Like, and that's parenting trends, all of that. So it's really tapping into what you believe is best for you, and being true to, and listening to your voice, and advocating for yourself and what you need, and advocating for yourself with yourself.
Absolutely. And that's important, because your young person's watching you. So I feel like it's almost important for you to do it for you first before them. What's the airplane mask? Like, put the mask on yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd be putting it on my dog, and then the other dog, and then
that's why I spend 17 hours in the gym every week.
Yeah, but
that's my oxygen mask.
I mean, for all of us. Yeah. It's so funny. It is so much about, like, the mental health in the community more than the physical fitness at this point.
Yeah.
We were even doing like a nutrition meeting at one point, and I think she was asking me something about life, and then I was like crying, and I'm like, I'm sorry, like, this is a bad week. We'll talk about food, but I'm just gonna unwind here for a second. And
food will always be there. It just holds space for you when you needed it.
Seriously. It's a wild journey, but humans come in your life for a reason, right at the right time.
It's true.
I specifically, what was like one step, because I really do want this to be a message to parents we need. What was like the first step that you took, or let's say this, once you knew you wanted to do something different, what was like one of the first things you and Rainer did just to do something? Because you're incredible about camping now and getting outdoors and doing geocaching, which I got to learn about. Oh, yeah. But like all these like really awesome interactive activities. What was like one of the very first things you did where you're like, okay, I'm taking this step and doing this with him. This is education.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And actually, sometimes I have a really hard pinpointing things like that, but I do remember it was like so there's something with kids when they're anxious or have, they have school trauma. It's called school refusal. And he was in the throes of a lot of that last year before we decided to homeschool. He just could not go to school. He could not put on clothes. He could not get in the car. He could not go to school. So it was like, all right, well, I'm not going to make you go to a place any longer that is, we had to jump through a lot of hoops to make that happen on the school side. But I was like, we're going to find a way for you to do things where you start to re-engage with learning again in a way, because he was at a point where he just didn't think he liked to learn. And he is one of the most curious kids that I know. And so, there's down by his horseback riding where he does horse therapy, CSU Spur down in Denver, they have like a free museum. And so he was like, let's go there sometime. And I was like, so the day that I was like, I'm going to start letting go of this having to go to school, like you're not learning anything, it's traumatizing you. It's like, let's go down to the Spur. And so, we walked around, looked at plants, and they were doing surgery on a dog because they have an open viewing, like a surgery, like what do they call those? A surgery center or something? That was like, it's a surgery center, but like a viewing area.
Oh, okay. Of any kind of surgery?
They were doing surgery on a bulldog who had kidney stones. Oh, and so we were like able to watch that, and it was just like super,
way more interesting than school. Like, are you serious?
He got way more out of that day in the 2 hours they were there than he probably did in 2 months at school.
Oh my God.
And so that's what I've leaned in really hard with him is interest-based learning, and that is kind of the direction we're taking with school. So like, I know you know this because yes, camping and things, but like, yeah, follow you, follow me. Yeah, we did a whole week-long camping trip last week because I was like, this is how we're going to kick off middle school for us and what it looks like for us. And so we just went around Colorado and we just did all these experiential kinds of things. And yeah, I think it was really powerful because I think he's able to now see like learning is cool again, and he can
Cooler than school.
yeah, for sure. And also like he can pick up whatever quote unquote skills he needs by learning about things he wants to. So reading, comprehension, math. I mean, he's better at math than I am, but you know how bad I am at math.
Because I'm also that.
Because I can't add 25 to 10 when I'm doing barbell stuff.
But we're strong.
Yes. Together we're stronger.
Yeah.
For the math at least. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's and that's the direction we're taking. And he's healing too, which was really, from a mental health perspective, it's been really powerful to see, because once you took away the thing that was just continuing to re-traumatize him over and over and over again, he's been able to like really become himself again.
And that's his mental health. That's also your mental health. I can notice a visible difference in you in the thick of it. And I was like, do whatever you got to do. Like, forget the school. And it's easy to say when you don't have a kid and I don't like to conform to like the Joneses or whatever. None of that's meaningful to me necessarily. But like, I mean, you can notice it's not good for the adult. You know, it's not good for the kid, and it's not good for the kids. So it's making it not good for the adult, and get all this together.
Yeah. I mean, it was, and I couldn't even tap into my own experience because I was so busy worrying about his. And so once the traditional school year ended and we were finally out from underneath what the expectations of us to be in a public school, and the end of the school year for his 5th grade year in May, I feel like he and I both, like, it was like an elephant taking their feet off of our necks, and we actually were able to start to breathe again. And then I was able to really begin to understand how badly in burnout I was from the meetings. And I mean, almost every day I'm on a meeting with the school in some capacity, and then he's in therapies on top of it, which is all really, the therapy part is very important. But like, we were just so burnt out on fighting against something that wasn't working. And yeah, so finding your own path, it's hard. Like, it's hard. And like, it's not just like, yay, we're not going to go to school anymore. Like, I still have to deal with the school district and like all this stuff. But knowing now and seeing how even just in a couple months, making that conscious shift and that conscious change has changed his mental health and helped him really like trust himself, but also trust me as a parent again. That is, yeah. And his dad too, of course, like as a family but as I'm the parent who's like doing a lot of the front lines of this stuff, it's been really powerful to see how coloring outside the lines can really work well for you.
Yeah. What you know I'm here for all the days.
Yeah. 100%.
I think it's incredible. And I really champion you that you put that out there, because it's really personal. Again, it's your little human. But this is exactly what we need, is like parents talking about it and, blazing this trail and disrupting the expectation and doing it your way, because these kids are young. Like, they're learning this stuff early. It's like bad nutrition as a 0-year-old. You learn that then for your whole life.
Yeah.
And you can't tap into learning or your happiness or advocating for yourself. Like, all this stuff is early. And here you are having to disrupt these traditional systems that everybody else is doing, and doing it your way, and not necessarily getting the gold star or getting their certificate or doing the school photo. And like, that in itself, I think, can be traumatizing in the process. And yet more parents and people know that are in exactly the same path. It's just, I'm assuming it's hard to connect and find out who else is doing it.
Yeah, it's as a parent in general, whether your kid's neurodivergent or not, there's so much pressure. And so if you feel like you're not succeeding as society has laid this path out for you, if you're not succeeding and checking those boxes, it's very easy to withdraw and isolate yourself, and then yeah, to your point, and it's very isolating. And then also, if you do have a neurodivergent child, it's even harder, because like, you socially, you can't just show up to like a birthday party and it'll be fine. Like, things could get really tough. So you isolate yourself even more. So being able to tap into communities, like, this is why social media is really great. Like, there's 1,000 reasons to hate Facebook, but I also am in some really great communities of parents who are going through very similar things. And I've learned so much from those communities and I'm able to impart what I've learned. And so that's how one of these great ways that we can kind of find ways to connect, because it is hard. Yeah, it's so hard.
Community, like,
yeah, I mean, community is such a big thing, right? I that is why I think that is the most important part about CrossFit is the community aspect. And I think that the community of that you can find on social media for the like in those groups is like the same idea in some ways, is like finding your people where you can kind of support each other through what's hard and also celebrate what you need to celebrate as well. So
you got to find people. And it's really great though. I'm such an advocate for exposure, because that was my learning. Like I could read in books and whatnot, but one of the best things I ever did was go away to college. Not because I wanted to leave my family, which was actually really hard, but I was thrust into this totally different world of, East Coast energy and everything, which I've found very comforting and very at home with. I'm here for my New Yorkers and East Coast anything. But like then going to Japan and just seeing how people eat different, speak different. And I didn't know it, so I was exposed to like neurodivergence. I would never know 90% of what I know had you not talked about it or shared your experience, or because I don't have immediate access or exposure to it. So you really have no idea. Like I would never think about a birthday party for a neurodivergent child, not because I don't care. I just literally have no idea. So I'm with you. Social media, podcasts, like facilitating these conversations and exposing the unexposed that wouldn't otherwise have a direct connect is really incredible and important, because we're all living in this world where we're siloed and disconnected. And I really think people do care and they want to understand and they want to know. But it's also one more thing for you to do. Get on the mic and come share all the things. So,
but being loud about what you're passionate about and what's important to you, and because you know how valuable and important it is for you to have that. And so to be able to, I think that's, I mean, whether it's neurodivergent or like any of the things that I'm loud about, it's because with 35-pound barbells versus 45-pound barbells, like that, it's important because the more you say those things, the more other people hear them, and then they start to understand why it's so important.
Yeah, I cannot agree more. And it's funny, you say loud, but I would say it's almost more consistent, because you're not the type that's like, I'm selling this. I just posted a thing today on KO Alliance about de-influencing, because people are like, the consumer is so savvy. This is a whole other podcast, but they're actually like getting too much, like not buying this stuff anymore. But if you're subtle, authentic, and passionate, and it's consistent, I think that's more powerful than the blast, as I'm screaming on the mic, of like, here's what we're doing, here's what it is. Because it's really authentic and it's really connected, and it's just consistent reminders of here's why, here's how, and here's why it's important. So it's really big, and it's not preachy. It's just, it's what you have to say. That's really cool.
Try and talk
Talk a lot. If you talk a lot, then people will start to hear the message, even if it's not loud. So that's why I just talk.
There you go. I'm gonna say that when you're coaching tomorrow, and I'm talking while you're coaching and you're
We were talking about like when we were kids, and I would talk so much that my desk would get pushed in next to the teachers because because they didn't want me, like I would be distracting everybody else. So
they used to write our name on the board.
Hashtag non-diagnosed neurodivergent.
Oh. You think about all the kids growing up, like how you're all not diagnosed with something.
I know, right?
Been in the mix.
Yeah.
They write our names on the board, and I'm like, do they think that I hate having my name on the board? Like, is that a punishment for some kids?
Yeah, that's the first influencer.
That's like cool, right? Podcast right after. Last question. We'll get your information. But what is? And I'm very curious to hear this from you. But like, what is success to you?
Success. Gosh. Personally, success is. It's being able to, I mean, business aside, success for me is being able to feel like I am portraying the kind of person that I think I said this earlier, that it's important to be proud of yourself, but that people see me and see what I'm doing and how I'm able to talk about my experiences, and then be able to take that and make something better about that, or inspired by that. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. Inspired by that. I just want to be an inspiration for people, and that is successful for me. And I know maybe that's like not a cool, like modest thing to say, but I do. I want my experiences to help other people feel better and be better and see that it doesn't have to be as hard because there are other people going through it too. So
That's awesome. I could not have said it better myself. And that's really cool because like with that advocacy is also responsibility. So you're holding yourself deeply accountable to be that leader. And if there's anything we need in this world right now, it's that like for our leaders to like fully recognize their power and the voices watching. It's basically an influencer. I don't want to burst your bubble here, but it is. But in the best way. And that's why I know influencer can be a dirty word, but on the flip side, it's a leader that takes responsibility and accountability, hopefully. So that is you.
yeah, I mean, advocacy is I think the most important part about advocacy is giving people, yeah, it's important to be a voice for other people, but also giving people the confidence and the empowerment to use their voice for themselves too. So it's like kind of like you're welcome. I've helped you, and now go fly. Like, yeah. So I mean, yeah, I guess that's
love
it.
And then you've done it all different phases. Well, if
Thanks.
people want to get a hold of you, what handles, websites, anything you want to share, come to a fitness class.
Yeah, not a whole lot because, like you said earlier, it's kind of business has kind of taken a back seat. But I do still coach classes, and my Instagram handle is coach.jacks. Yeah, it's terrible. My Instagram got hacked last year, and I had to come up with something that was very different. That's why it's the real Coach Jacks. But there's a period in between each. But
She has no desire to be an influencer, and yes, she is. Well, I did want you to share just because like some of your videos with Rainer and things you do, I think are really awesome, and I think it's just such a great viewpoint for any parent out there that's looking for a solution to do something different. So even just checking out your social media, I think is a really cool thing to see, and it's really good ideas.
no, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe in a couple of years I'll have more. Yeah, I'll be one of those people who'll be like, now I have a podcast about where people can find me.
See it.
But it's just yeah.
It'll happen soon.
I've got a great friend who can help me with the marketing part.
Well, Rainer knows all like the lights
yeah.
and equipment
Yeah.
and those YouTube. I'm gonna hire him. That's like he told me. I mean, I think I said that for a couple of years now. So we'll get there. But I appreciate your time and energy.
Yeah.
We could cover so many more
Yeah.
things.
Thank you so much for finally wearing me down.
This is what I do. Yeah. There's one thing I can do is keep showing up. You won't.
You show up too.
Yeah.
But
We'll get there. Yeah. Well, go check out Jackie, what she's got going on, and all the things, all the trails she's blazing. Come play fitness with us at Palladium. Quick thank you to our sponsor, Lux Neuro, neurofeedback and counseling. Lux Neuro wants to meet you. If you are ready to transform your life, visit them at luxneuro.com to schedule a consultation. Thank you very much. Check out Turmeric Tequila wherever you get your podcasts. We are everywhere, and we will have these videos on YouTube. Cheers.
Thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.